Mark Zuckerberg expected to testify in the landmark social media addiction case against Meta and YouTube. And joining us right now is Joshua Tucker, co-director of the NYU Center for Social Media and Politics. How much today is about theater, and how much do you think is actually going to be accomplished, if you will, that we're actually going to learn something new?
I mean, we'll have to see what happens. Right. What happens in the court case today, and what they end up discussing, and what they end up talking about in there. But I mean, there's a lot of things to dig into, and a lot of things to unpack about how social media has evolved over time, and how it looks different now from what it originally looked like when social media started 15 years ago.
Okay, so this, which is an interesting point you're making, because there is sort of a look-back feature to this relative to where the future is going. So this is a case that, to a large degree, is looking backwards, not forwards. And so how do you look at where social media is right now, and where you think social media even is going to be in the future?
Right. But those are fascinating questions. I think the key thing to understand about social media is that the last few years has seen what I've called the TikTokification of social media,
right?
Which is a move from when social media originally started. It had kind of three defining features. It tended to be text-based. It tended to be based on what we call reverse chronological feed, which is that you just saw the most recent posts. And it tended to be based on you saw content from people who you had chosen to interact with.
Right.
But TikTok came around and it sort of blew up that model, and the other platforms have kind of followed by doing three things. One was moving away from this idea of reverse chronological feed, and instead having an algorithm that was going to try and show you what you wanted to see. And this is an engagement maximizing algorithm to try to keep you on the platform. The second thing it did is that it moved away from the potential inventory, the potential content they could show you, just to be people you had followed, you were friends with, to be the whole platform.
Okay, I'm going to make you king of Facebook and Instagram for the day. You do what?
Oh, if you're going to make me king of Instagram,
I make you the king, and you can create a service that is both engaging, that people want to use, and that you believe may be safer, better, different.
Well, I mean, I think this comes back to the cardinal question of social media, which is that social media from the get-go embarked on an ad-based model as opposed to a subscription-based model.
Right.
And so an ad-based model, both of those models are based on trying to create a platform that people want to use, but for different reasons. And the ad-based model what it's trying to do is it's trying to get as much information as possible about you, so it can communicate that to advertisers selling a better product. Whereas what we see with most of the AI companies right now is that they are, at least for the moment, and with the exception of OpenAI, which has spoken about this going forward, but they're embracing this subscription-based model. And this is, I think, the sort of cardinal difference. But if you ask me what I would do...
Can I just make one comment about that? Because I think there's... this is my own view. I think clearly my view is at odds with your view. I ultimately think that an advertising-based model is a good thing. And the reason I think it's actually a good thing is that it democratizes the use case for these products. You know, when you get into a subscription-based world, we're living in a subscription-based world increasingly. Right. And you talk about the haves and the have-nots in America, and the ability, by the way, to even get at facts and real news and what's happening. You can't get it because most people can't afford it. And so, you know, there's a lot of people who say, oh, we should all move to a subscription-based universe, which is where I think you were sort of pushing. Maybe I'm wrong. But the flip side of a subscription-based universe is a sort of inequality around information in a way, and by the way, that I think is going to be devastating to the country when you think about what's going to happen in the future with AI, that if you're not going to actually be able to use it, have access to it, you'll be living in a completely different planet, frankly. Right. And so I say that up front, because I could see where you were going, and I just want I have a very strong view about this, as you can tell.
No. I just think it's important for getting the context of what's happening on the platform.
Oh, I get why the incentives are what they are.
And I think what we're watching right now is, as you said, is going to be, for the time being anyway, a different model with these AI tech companies that we're going to right now. So I think we're going to get an insight into exactly what you're talking about. By the way, I think the points that you're raising here are excellent points, and I think that that is the question, right? The ad-based model, you, the consumer, become the product of the model, right, which is then sold and bundled onto the advertisers. Now, exactly as you said, the sort of flip side of this is that this opens up access. And we've seen this with the social media companies. I mean, they are tremendously popular. They're used by billions of people around the world. We're seeing the subscription-based model with the AI companies. But to be totally clear, it is a freemium model. We're not starting with a barrier. It's that you are paying for higher levels as you go. But just to answer your previous question, if I had one thing that I could do as an academic researcher, what I would do, if you put me in charge for one day, is put a totally different regime in place about the transparency around what's happening on these platforms.
On the algorithm.
Well, what's happening on the platforms generally, what's happening on the algorithm, these companies are too big and too powerful to be the only people who can see into the data that they're producing. And I think we as a society, precisely because we need to make these kinds of decisions, should these platforms, should these platforms be subscription-based, should they be ad-based, we need to be able to have information about what's happening on them. And right now, that's a real challenge for researchers.